Hi, everyone. So Kelsey decided to piss me off right before we started. So let's see how well this goes.
I mean, it's important LGBT news. The state.
Oh, I know. I was not aware. And you could have waited. That's fine. It's. Anyways, hi, guys. Welcome to our review episode of The Wayward Dragons, where we talk a lot of random shit about things we enjoy, things we've been watching, things we've been imbibing, and all that fun stuff. I am Johnny.
And I'm Kelsey. And welcome.
I couldn't decide if I was me today or not. So the first thing I'd like to review is hot bean juice. It's delicious.
We've been patiently waiting for his hot bean juice to be ready before we start recording.
Yeah, so I have like 30-something books to review, but most of them are in a series, and I kind of talked part of about it last time.
Oh, the Animorph that you've been reading?
So I finished it, and honestly, the series holds up.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to go back and read something that you read or were aware of or partially read or anything like that when you were younger. Same thing with watching, because just the difference in perspective of life, and you don't really notice some of the messed up stuff that's in it.
Yeah.
So, like, there's, it starts off with, like, usual young adult thing, like, hey, we have to do this, we have to do this. But by the end of it, these people have been through, like, these kids have been through so much, and it's a really good representation of, like, child soldiers and what just trauma can do to people.
Yeah.
But, like, in one episode, they're literally debating murdering a child. Or one book, because she knows they're short books. In my mind, they're episodes. Anyways, they're literally talking about murdering a child because she knows their secrets.
Solid.
It puts them at risk and puts their family at risk and puts the fate of the entire world at risk. So, and these are like teenagers, like young teenagers that are debating the morality of this. And it gets into some interesting places. And so it's like a total of, I think, 64 books in the entire series, including like the books that happen in the middle, like the backstory books and all that. But definitely worth checking out if you have time. Apparently, there's been a resurgence in the books recently, because millennials going back to stuff that they used to read, and stuff that's not transphobic, or by transphobic author, the author honestly is a huge queer like ally in general. They have a trans child, but they even then there's a lot of things in the book that they talk about that are very differently viewed. And so like one of the things is the alien takes the DNA from Axe. He takes the DNA from a number of different Earth children and like combine them together into his own person, because he's like hey, I have to blend in, so I'm gonna disguise myself to look like you. For anyone who didn't listen to our last episode and doesn't know what the hell Animorphs is, it is a series about a group of 5 young teenagers that stumble upon a crashed alien ship, and the alien that's inside gives them the power to turn into any animal that they have acquired their DNA. So the individual that I'm talking about is actually the younger brother of that guy, because that guy dies, because he's like, you're the last hope. This is all I can do to help you. And so they find his brother, and his brother joins the team. And so he like, hey, I have to blend in with people. So he takes like DNA from the couple of different ones of the kids. I think there's 4 of them in total. And basically makes his own person out of those DNA. So you can see aspects from all 4 of them in him. But where was I going with that?
I have no idea.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. So they asked him. Sorry, bean juice hasn't kicked in yet. They asked him what his why he chose to be Mel, and like because he took both like DNA from two males and two females, biological male and biological female, and he goes, well, that's just who I am. I'm a male. So he chose, hey, this is who I am. This is my identity. So and I'm not sure if her child had come out as trans at that point in time or not, but it's really cool to see it, just an individual that's like, hey, this is a thing, and we're not even gonna we'll brush right past it, and we're not gonna spend too much time dwelling on it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I just jumped into what I read. I was already talking.
No, you're fine.
I read a book for one of our upcoming episodes, which I did not realize. I didn't think about this till after after I started reading this book, because it is on the episode's going to be on a topic that Kelsey and I don't talk about. That's just part of our friendship. We just don't talk about it. So I think that episode's going to be really awkward for both of us.
Yes.
So
that's one of my 3 rules with people.
Yeah.
One of my 3 rules with everybody.
I've been trying to figure out hey, how can I incorporate, and I'll get more to this when we get to the episode, but my experiences into what the conversation is without crossing that line, because that's an understanding that we have, that we don't talk about things like that.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. But anyways, so that book is called Sex Magic for Beginners by Rosalyn Vargas. It was okay.
This is, for those of you, I have 3 rules. One of the rules is I don't want to know what happens behind a door. That's between you and that person. I don't need to know. Now, if something weird happens and you're like, hey, has this ever happened to you? I will gladly talk about that with you.
Or if it's something funny.
Yeah. Or female to female, hey, has this ever happened to you? This happened to me the other night. Or, hey, I'm having these weird symptoms or something. We'll talk about that. I do not want to know what happens between you and another person. To me, the other party can't consent to you telling me. And that's between you and them. And then that's I've always felt
what I'll probably do when we do that episode is I will take it, and there are certain topics that edge on that, or I feel that are edging on that. No pun intending on talking about edging. That actually will come up, but I will probably just give Kelsey a signal so she can take it and take her headphones off, and then let her wave her down when she can come back. That way.
I've always thought that. I've had girlfriends in the past that feel the need to tell me every detail of their love life, and I get extremely uncomfortable with it.
It's funny because I know some people that are like that, but then I know the majority of the people I know, unless you're just having a conversation about weird shit that's happened, or unless you're in some kind of fetish scene or something like that, and you're in the kink community and you're talking about something like that openly, these people I associate with don't generally just be the stereotypical, yo, bro, guess what I just did?
Yeah, no.
It's
not for me.
Yeah. But anyways, like I said, people share experiences, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So I read that book that I'm actually going to highly recommend, and I think that it's really important that people who are ADHD read this, because I stumbled on this book. It's ADHD, a hunter in a farmer's world, and it kind of goes into this is a science book, guys. It goes into the theory that the reason why people who are ADHD is it's not really a disorder. It's and I completely agree with that, but that's a completely different conversation. But it's not really a disorder. What it is that we have the genetics of individuals that were hunters, and as far as a primary food source when they were in the tribal days, and so, or warriors. So you had to be hyper aware and hyper vigilant of your surroundings, which is why,
Mm-hmm.
people are easily distracted is, hey, they're just looking around. They're just, digging into stuff. And when we started to settle into civilizations and started domesticating animals for meats and byproducts and stuff like that, we got people who have that genetic marker started to struggle, and that we live in a farmer world, because we do, even though, not everyone's a farmer. I realize that, but it's very much a structured, hey, we do this at this time, we do this at this time, we do this at this time, and it's very rigorous schedules on stuff. And that's not always good for people who aren't like that. It's definitely something that, some people struggle with. Just off a biological level. And I think that I recommend the book because it talks about like a couple different things you can do to kind of work with this. And it's like, it's not very like, hey, you have to take medication, or hey, don't take any medication. The book talks about like how, hey, this is an option you can take, but it's not right for everyone.
No. Yeah, no.
And it's like, hey, you can take medication, and medication may be great for you, but medication is not good for everyone. You can meditate, because meditation has been proven to help certain individuals increase their focus, but it's not right for everyone. You can seek out jobs that are more inclined to individuals who have a hunter mindset or hunter biology over a farmer biology, and that might be helpful, but it's not right for everyone, because there's no one answer. And so the book talks about that, how we need to move past the farmer world and try and make a what's the word I'm looking for, compromise between the two. After reading this book, I actually had a very interesting, and I've had a conversation with a few friends of mine about this, but I have a theory, and this is coming from someone with no scientific backing here, but I have a theory that autism may actually be the biological attempt, biology's way, or the evolution's way, whatever we're going to call it, of trying to split the two, and that's why it's such a wide spectrum of people with it, is because, evolution's just kind of taking a shot in the dark, but it realizes, hey, we don't live in this world anymore, so what can we do to kind of fix this?
Yeah, autism's the compromise.
Yeah, and because a lot of people who are ADHD, let me phrase it. A lot of people that are autistic are also ADHD, and so I think it could be the compromise of, hey, how do we fix all this chaos that's going on in the world around us and be able to survive in it? But that's just me. That's just my theory. It's probably not nowhere near correct. I don't know. Who's to say? I don't think it's something you can prove or disprove.
No.
But if any of our listeners are biologists or psychologists or whatever would qualify in this circumstance, possibly both, hey, there's you an idea to dig into as far as a theory-wise. And, you don't have to credit me for anything. That's fine. I would just love to read the research paper on it. Yeah, so there's that. I did read The Starless Sea.
Yes.
It was enjoyable. After I read it, I went on to Goodreads, and there was one lady who was apparently really not pleased with it and gave it a 1-star review and went completely postal, and she's like, this is just a love letter to storytelling, and blah, 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 blah. And it's that's kind of what it comes across as what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure if you were expecting epic fantasy or what, but I feel like it comes across exactly what it's supposed to be, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have a few friends who are folklorists, and I've recommended the book to them because I'm like, hey, you like stories and talking about the structures of stories and all of that, and you should check this out because not every freaking story has not every character has to have a hero's journey. And it's okay to not have that exact formula.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the friends that I recommended it to, I recommended it to her because it's not like the whole hero's journey thing, because she's not a big Joseph Campbell fan. But I heard her rant for an hour and a half about Joseph Campbell because whatever reason. She was also drunk and just ranting, but that's neither here nor there.
I think there's a concept with a lot of literature now, is that there needs to be a hero and the hero needs redeemed in some way. And that's
right.
That doesn't always need to be the case. Like it was truly a love letter. It's a love story between time and fate, and how they fall in love all the time, and
they constantly reference that through the entire thing. There's no like there is a little bit of hidden symbolism in some of the things, but the majority of it is not hidden symbolism. Like there is, it's very straightforward. It's, hey, this is what this is. It's not trying to pretend to be anything else. It's not trying to not be pretentious, but being super pretentious or anything like that. It is literally a story that says, hey, this is a love story to itself, and this is a love story to literature in general. And I think anyone who reads it, if they keep that in mind, would thoroughly enjoy the series.
Yeah.
Or the series, the book.
Just one.
Yeah. Well, you know me, I typically read series.
No, I know.
And so it fucks with me a little bit when I'm just like, yeah, this series, and they're like, that's one book, and I'm like, yeah, this book series of one book.
Yeah, no.
So I have two more things.
She's the author of The Night Circus. That's what she's known for, is The Night Circus. Which
I'm assuming that has I've never read it. I have no knowledge of it. I'm assuming it has a very different structure.
Yes.
And I think maybe this is why this lady went like completely bonkers, if she was expecting that. But hey, the author is very talented. It does not just stick to one freaking type of storytelling.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time getting into The Night Circus. Basically, there's two magicians, and the two magicians have a contest between their prodigies to the death. Problem is, prodigies fall in love.
So it's a Romeo and Juliet type situation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Having a very hard time. It was one of the book club books that I'm a part of a long time ago. Finding a really hard time to get into that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but that's what she's known for, is The Night Circus. So if you go into thinking it's going to be The Night Circus, you're going to be very disappointed. That is not what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good, though. Starless, that was good. I loved that one.
And then, so the other things, if I can get back to my list here. So I read The Deadbeat Druid, which is the final book in the Adam Bender trilogy by David R. Slayton. I talked about the other two books on here. It's White Trash Warlock and Trailer Park Trickster.
Gotcha. I was like, where?
Queer Southern urban fantasy series.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen says that it's a trilogy. I am totally okay with it just being a trilogy, but I would not be disappointed if the author wrote more books.
Okay.
These are the only 3 books that David has under his belt that are published.
Okay.
So I don't know what his plan is long term, but yeah, if you like urban fantasy, Southern fantasy.
Southern fantasy is always fun.
Queer fantasy, and not like the kind that Kelsey loves so much, or anything like that, then I highly recommend this book series. Good ending to the book. And then the last one I read was Will White's The Captain. I couldn't really figure out how I felt about the book.
That's always the worst.
Well, there were a lot of elements that I liked, but also it was like, hey, let's throw all these different ideas and genres at a board and see what sticks.
Fun Fucking hate that.
So basically, the guy is a magician, like a space wizard.
Okay.
And in the universe that this takes place, you can only take on one type of magic at a time. Because you can only learn discipline in one type of magic, and there's 7 types of magic. And his father works for this company and did this experiment on him where they basically fractured reality and said, hey, these are the possibilities you could do if you took each one of these different types of magics throughout your life, or one of these types of magics throughout your life. So there's 6 different versions of him that basically come together into one. And so he has like memories of 6 different lives of people he's never met and all this other crap. And he has the capabilities of the versions of him in those life.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's that. So.
Yeah, I could see where that could be problematic.
Yeah, so he's just like, yeah, I have all these different types of magic, but I have to keep it low key. And hey, I found this special spaceship that I can interact with and give it my power, and it can only be crewed by 6 people, so we have to go find the other 5 people to crew the spaceship so we can save the universe. And the first guy he picks on acts like basically like he's like a retired Power Ranger. Because he literally he has a body he has a battle suit. They were in one of the universes, the main character, the captain, fought with this guy as one of these Power Rangers type characters, and they had color coded battle suits, and then they have giant mechs they can summon to fight in to make them stronger when they fight giant monsters. No, it's basically Power Rangers. And then there's
that's Power Rangers.
That's what I'm saying is that it was just like they took all these different things and they're like, hey, let's throw all this at a wall and see what sticks and make a book about it. There is a second book. I don't know if it's just gonna be a duology or if there's going to be more in the series.
Okay.
So I will keep you apprised when I find out more on that, and you can find out where the rest of this mayhem is going. That is all I have. I will turn it over to you since I just kind of took the reins and ran with it.
So the first one I read my first Neil Gaiman book, The Ocean at the End of the Sea.
And what'd you think?
That was very short and sweet. I wish there was kind of a little bit more of an ending. And you find out a little bit more. Whose funeral was he going to? I'm assuming it's maybe like one of his parents. That's what I assumed. But yeah, it wasn't bad. It was short and sweet. So the premise of the book is,
That's one of the few Gaiman works I have not read, but
it's literally as big as my fucking pinky.
Yeah.
It's a baby.
Yeah, he's got a lot of shorter stories.
Yeah.
Novellas and such.
Yeah. It wasn't bad. So this young gentleman is back into his hometown for a funeral. And he, on the way back from the funeral, back to his sister's house, he stops at his childhood best friend's house. And he doesn't really have a whole lot of memories. He knows that they're there. But the book is about him unlocking those memories. I'll give a trigger warning of mild child abuse in there. It's real tiny. It's evil stepmother type vibes, type thing. Well, evil nanny. But he discovers his memories and stuff, and then he discovers, why he's there. Type thing. It's like fractured reality sometimes.
Okay.
Kind of thing. For never reading Neil Gaiman before, honestly, that was pretty good. Don't mind my dog in the background. Yeah, he's been a mess. He's getting so used to me being home that he's not going to be happy when I go back to work this week.
Yeah, but it'll be fine.
Yeah. So the next one I read was It's One of Us by E.T. Or J.T. Ellison. So if you have infidelity trigger, do not read this. Do not read this at all. But basically, it starts out with this couple, and they're going through IVF treatments, and in the process of IVF treatments, they get a knock on the door from the police, and they inform them that they have a DNA match to the husband's son in a murder case. And you find out that the husband donated sperm way before he got together with his wife. The sperm bank used the sperm way more than they should have, which is common. But the husband is not the only... Huh?
I said, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's been in the news a couple of times. There's been different sperm banks. I don't
pay attention to news, especially not news about sperm banks, so...
Well, when like 500 kids, the headline of like 100 plus kids pop up, because sperm bank, because apparently you're only supposed to use them a certain amount of times. Anyway, the husband's not the only one harboring a secret. The wife has some major secrets of her own that she does not want to come to the light type thing. So if you have infertility trigger warnings, do not read that. It's really good. It's really creepy. Very creepy. But that was part of a book club I read that for. And then I'm completing these as I read The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. That was a big disappointment. So it's part of like a Russian trilogy, I think. Yeah, it's part of a trilogy. So it's based in Russia. So it helps to listen to this as an audiobook because all the names are pronounced correctly. But it's a point in history in Russia's history where the church is taking over. So medieval type thing. And it's got a lot of Russian folklore in it. It's just the plot's not there. It's there, but it's not. Okay. But it's a lot of, you have to honor your family type thing. Christianity is the only way to go. But there's a little girl and she's basically there to save the world. There's the bears waking up and her and her little nightingale are going to save the world. The Russian world. So it's very like lackluster. Like the plot's there, but it's not. Like they could have done so much more to that. Ugh. So that was one of the ones that I read that was just like, this just sucks. It took me a minute to get through that. I like kind of Iron Man'd it through because I was like, oh my god. Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This is, I think, a movie. If you do not, I'm giving a self-harm trigger, like major self-harm trigger before you read this. Do not read this if you have a self-harm trigger. Premise of the book is there's a reporter. She just got out of kind of like a rehab. She cuts herself. But instead of cutting lines, she cuts words into her body. So her body is full of words, and they're not pretty words. They are not pretty words. And she just kind of got out of a psych hold rehab thing, and her boss, she's an investigative reporter. There's murders going on in her hometown, and her boss wants her to go back and find out.
Sharp Objects they made it into a TV drama that lasted one season, starring Amy Adams.
Yeah, I was like, it's either a movie or a show.
Yeah, it was a TV show. Well, it's technically IMDb listed as a mini series. It looks like.
Okay, that sounds about right. Because like the picture for the library was the TV show, but the book cover you get it's covered in razors, like razor blades. So yeah, there's murders going on in her hometown. So she goes home. She has to confront a lot of her past and the present. It's a wild ride. It's a wild ride. That was creepy. That I feel very sad for her, for the main character. It's almost like Munchausen by proxy in that book. There's some of that rocking in there. But yeah, if you have self-harm triggers, do not read that. Do not read that. I read Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. This is fucking weird. I'm like on this weird line of weirdness this year. I don't understand. So, she cracks me up. The lead, Sally, is we were talking about this earlier with your ADHD thing. So I don't know how to explain this. So Sally, her father dies, and there's kind of a chain of events that happen after he dies. You find out there's a lot of reasons why Sally is very strange. She comes off very autistic, and it made me laugh a lot, the shit that would come out of her mouth. I'm going to give spoilers because you can't really talk about the book without giving spoilers. So you find out that Sally's mom was kidnapped, and she is the byproduct of the kidnapper and Sally's mom. And I think it was like 20 years ago where like this dad kept his daughter in the basement of their house or whatever, like in a bunker type thing, and like kept her hidden. She never saw a lot of day for like 20 plus years or whatever. She had numerous babies and stuff. Gives that vibe. Her and her mom were kidnapped, or her mom was kidnapped. She gave birth to her while in captivity. And they get out in a way. But Sally gets adopted by a psychiatrist, and his wife. They were part of like their medical team, so they adopted them, and she comes to realize that she's been an experiment the whole time in a weird way. If you could like kind of rewire the brain with enough medication, you can kind of rewire the brain. But she comes off very autistic in that way because she's never been like properly socialized, nothing. So part of the book is her re-socializing, but her kidnapper, her mother's kidnapper, has never been found. So part of the book is finding the kidnapper and stuff. Sally just cracked me up because like back to she like would ask sex questions, not realizing that you're not supposed to like just shove them into a conversation. It's very funny to read. If you look at it, that like she shows signs of being autistic, like, but it's also like, is she autistic, or is it because she's never left her house? She never went to school. She didn't have friends. She wasn't allowed really out of the house. Like, you know,
naivete.
So is it her just being naive and just never experiencing these things because it's been her and her dad for so long? Or is she autistic? Or is it her trauma? Like, because she was...
Or a combination thereof.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that was really good. It's funny in a weird way, like, because she says some of the off the wall shit. And you're like, she's autistic. She is autistic. Like, so that one was good. I'm gonna save a good thing for last. So I read Hidden Pictures by Jason Kalikak or whatever. This was horrible. Krekulak. Interesting concept.
Sorry, what?
It's an interesting concept. The story is there. How it was executed, not very good. So this recovering addict, which I understand why it's there, but I didn't like that because it comes to play in a weird way in the end, and I don't like that. Recovering addict, and she gets a job as a nanny for this very well-to-do family, and the little boy, and I won't give it away because there's shit that goes down with this little boy, starts drawing very weird pictures. And like a woman being strangled and killed and put in a hole, and like very horrific drawings. But the boy isn't drawing them. Something is possessing the boy to draw them. I don't like how the addiction of the nanny comes into play. That was not cool. I know it's there to make it sound like she's crazy and like she's losing her mind, but I just did not like that. If you're like transphobic, don't read it. You find out the little boy is not a little boy. Spoiler, the family, the husband and wife that the nanny works for, kidnapped the little girl, killed her mom, who is the ghost that's possessing her little girl, and that's what she's drawing, and they cut off her hair, put her in boy clothes to disguise her as a boy.
Okay, so it's... Yeah, that's like a whole...
Yeah,
it's a whole thing with discriminating against trans people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That wasn't the part that I did. It took forever to get to where we needed to be. Wasn't a big fan. I will say, if you read the book, the pictures, the drawings that happen that the little boy or little girl or little kid draws, they are put in there. So I thought that was really cool. So as you read, you can kind of see how it's supposed to look, which I thought was kind of cool. I listened to this. It was the worst 12 hours I've had in a long time. It took me forever to just listen to it. It felt like it was dragging. In the narrator, she just made it really whiny sounding, and I just wasn't a big fan. I tried reading it, and then I started listening to it, because sometimes I do that if I don't like it, to kind of speed up the process. Didn't help. The last one that I read, this was such a good book. It was so creepy. It was so good. Lone Women by Victor LaValle. So this is a person of color book. All the main characters are amazing Black women. It is set in Frontier, Montana. And it follows a amazing Black woman, and she is going to Montana because it's historical fiction. So in this time and place in our timeline, they're giving away land to women, and this is at a time where people of color could get land, but you had to be there for a certain amount of years, and then it would be yours, type thing. And there was a group called the Lone Women, and the author did research into these lone women and was like, a lot of these women have really cool stories. Like, this is really cool.
So it's like it's based off actual history.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So Adelaide is on her way to Montana, and she has a big trunk with her. The trunk is her family curse. What lives in the trunk is her family curse. If you're squeamish, don't read it. There's a lot of gore, a lot of blood and guts. Don't. Because it's 1915, and Adelaide is on her way to Montana to get her property. There is some racial tension, racial stuff that happens in the book, but it's there for a reason, because it is historical fiction. But the curse that lives in the trunk killed her parents. And you find out that it wasn't the only one born. Because it's a demon. And the demon gets out and causes some havoc. But it's LGBT. There is a lesbian couple in the book. They are huge, important players in it. And it makes you question that just because it's your parents' curse or burden, does it make it yours? You know, that's kind of the theme in the book.
Addressing like generational trauma.
Kind of. It was phenomenal. This is one that I've noticed because I've been trying to get off my phone. I've been reading and listening at the same time. This is one of those that I actually did both. I read and listened at the same time. Really creepy. But it is that was one of the best books so far that I've read this year, was Lone Women, and it's all amazing Black women in that book.
Okay.
All the main characters, it's all women, but the main characters are amazing Black women, and the white people in it are dicks. But
I mean, that's usually how white people are.
So, yeah, it was good. That was, I can see where that was really popular. Yeah, it came out last March 28th of 2023. That was awesome. That was a good one. It was creepy. It's gory. If you don't like blood and guts, don't do it. Because it does get a little graphic, especially towards the end. Because they get the ultimate revenge. So. But, yeah. I was like, haven't really been watching anything. Oh, I found this podcast called The Old Gods of Appalachia.
You found this podcast? I've talked about this podcast multiple times, Kelsey.
So, I barely remember what I ate yesterday. Okay. I don't know if I like
it. Yes.
Because there's too many commercials.
There's, like in the podcast itself, like at the beginning and end?
Yeah.
Well, you can get away from that if you go to their Patreon, because they got to pay bills somehow.
Yeah.
And they actually started Old Gods of Appalachia was actually started. It's a pandemic podcast, actually.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that, like, they basically, because they lost
their jobs,
abilities of making money, so they decided to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And people started like helping them take care of their family and stuff. But anyways, I love Old Gods of Appalachia.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it, because I gotta listen, because I listen to everything through Audible. That's how I listen to my podcasts. So the fact that I pay for Audible and the podcast still has ads, I'm a little confused.
Gotcha. So it may be the podcast itself and not just like Audible, because like I listen to it on Spotify, and that's how it is on Spotify.
So my ADHD or whatever neurospice I got rocking upstairs has been very bad the last couple of days. So for me to do anything yesterday, have you heard of the Dragonfather on Spotify?
I have not.
Sir?
Is that a band or a podcast or?
It's a man. It's a solo man. And he makes like video game / like tavern music.
Okay. Oh, so like ambiance.
Yes.
Okay.
My husband was laughing at me because yesterday I just had it playing all the time because I couldn't get anything done without it. I'm just like, I have to pretend I'm doing something for my tavern because if not, I'm just going to sit and stare at the wall.
Yeah.
But his stuff, because of who you recommended at the wedding, very similar. He's a little bit more techno, I feel like, but
okay.
It's, yeah, I was listening to all his stuff on repeat yesterday. I found him on Instagram. So yeah, but
Cool.
That's all I got. I've been trying to read. We've been watching Gold Rush. That's our new anxiety show. So
have fun with that. So don't forget to like, rate, review, subscribe. Sorry, this episode ran a little longer than usual. We had a lot of books and had a little bit longer between episodes recording.
Yeah.
If you're interested in gems and missed our last like 3 or 4 episodes, check back on those. You can learn some stuff about gemstones and different practices with them. If you're interested in love deities, check out next week's episode that should be coming out around Valentine's Day. And then after that, we will be talking a little bit about the sex magic and making Kelsey and myself super awkward while we have the closest, weirdest thing to a conversation like that we've ever had in the over 10 years we've known each other.
Well,
so
it's like
then,
it's like we talk about a lot of deep stuff, but not that.
Yeah, I
know. But yeah, please rate, review, subscribe. Like he said, please tell a friend. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. You interact with me on those. If you email, you talk to Johnny for record. So social media is all me. So come tell us what you read over the weekend. I've been posting things because the book I posted, we'll be talking about that next episode. The Dead Take the A Train. So yeah, until next time.
I'm Johnny.
And I'm Kelsey.
Bye.
Bye.